Good afternoon, everyone. It's still afternoon. It's been a long 2 days, but beautiful 2 days. I'm still trying to discern what happened in our room, because it was so different to what I expected, and I think what all of us expected. We do have slides, but that's just to show you we can make slides. And so I want to tell you a little bit about the story, and among the most important of these slides, I think, is this slide right here. As we were starting our conversation yesterday, we were in the classroom, and when we walked in, the big classroom, about 10 minutes into the conversation and our introductions, we were kicked out by the education group. What a blessing that was. It really was, because we moved to a small room where we could see each other and sit around a circle. That was amazing. That changed the tenor of our conversation so much. And we could see each other here, and you know, as we started our conversation, I think it's so apropos that we are the group that goes after storytelling. Because as we started to introduce ourselves, one of our colleagues, Megan, is Megan here? Megan Garcia. I want to share a little bit of an introduction, and I apologize if I get emotional, because it is so emotional. Megan is the first mother to experience the loss of a child through suicide because of AI. You might have read her story of AI facilitated, encouraged, I don't know what the right word is, the suicide of her son. Right? And as we continued introducing ourselves, her story resonated so much for us, because she said, "Look at me. I am your user, your core market. I am who you are designing for." In the room, we had academics, we had investors, we had researchers. And that story grounded us. It really did. It reminded us of why we were here. And I think also why this session was so different for us, and why this outcome is so different. In some ways, rather than having recommendations for the world, and we do, of course, we want to create a rubric, and I'll share more about that and so forth. As we were going through first our introductions, we asked 2 questions. The first question was, what do you want to get out of this, and what do you bring to the room? And in those moments, we realized that group that's here, we were the experiment. We are the ones we are recommending to, right? We were and are the ones that were transformed and wish to be transformed through the conversations we had. And so the first part of the day, as I mentioned, was introductions. And because we had the privilege and the luck of being a small group of 12, an initial 12, we had 2 flip charts of things we wished to bring to the room and things we wanted to get out of it. And one of the last things that we had at the bottom of that list of things we wanted to get out of it was to expand the conversation. And that was at the end of day 1. We were so lucky that over the course of the morning today, we had 5 more colleagues join us. So check on one of those outcomes. But we wish to continue having the conversation. And so we had the introductions, and then we started talking about what our fears were, what our hopes were. And I would like to say we violently disagreed and agreed in such a respectful way, right? That we created what I'm going to call creative abrasion in such a beautiful way. It was respectful. It was never condescending. And how rare is that, right? And so as we were continuing the introductions and we were sharing, we also realized something very important. We met the Christian quota of having at least 25% of the people in the room named John. So we were good. And so we were also had that sense of levity, despite that we were dealing with some very heavy and very important topics. We were there also laughing with each other, enjoying each other's company. And we were there to talk about embodied AI, right? So it's where artificial intelligence meets automation, meets mobility. So now it's AI coming from the screen to here in front of us, interacting with us, right? Technically, we were talking about humanoid robotics. We didn't get to that until the very last 5 minutes of the first day, maybe 15 minutes, because the previous conversation was so important. And of course, autonomy. And so we then came back this morning, and we started with a reflection on what we had realized about ourselves, and what did the conversation do for us overnight. And I think that was an important moment of reflection for us. We do need that time of reflection, to use a word that I think we use not often enough even here and in the world. We need more discernment. We need the time to discern. And we had that luxury and we had that privilege. And so it was a beautiful set of reflections. And we did then get into what's the current state of embodied AI, and saw some incredible videos, including yesterday, but especially today, of robots, autonomous and otherwise. But that wasn't the core. That was kind of part of the conversation. And the last two questions, we ended the day answering two questions, and I want to give Joanne a thank you for this. And I don't see her name here. I apologize, Joanne. We will put you on here. She asked us, what are the priorities, meaning what are the actions and questions that we have for each other, in a way of saying what has become clear for us, and did any of our views change? And if so, how? And as we answered those questions, those were the most important questions, I think. The answer is yes. For many of us, our views changed. We had a deeper appreciation, whether it would be of the technology, of the process, of what everything our colleagues and all of you have spoken about before. And also the appreciation of the Holy Spirit in the room, and how privileged we were to be part of that. And as we finished that conversation about what are the priorities and actions that we think are important for us to share, we realized it was the priorities and actions and the questions we, each of us, are taking back for our own work, right? To be the change we want to see in the world. So it was an amazing, really amazing time. And I'm getting a little emotional, I did as well, because this morning, as we realized as we started yesterday with that such heartfelt, tragic story of Megan's son, We woke up this morning, if you turned on the news, there was another suicide. And I think one of, if not the central takeaways that we each took away from our work and for the work that's happening here is how urgent this conversation needs to be, how urgent this conversation is, and how much responsibility we have. As we started, and I hope I finish here, like I said, these slides were not important. It's the people in the room, the conversations we had. When we started, as Megan shared her story, we said, of course, we were tragically sad for her loss, our loss, and we hope to honor the memory of her son in the room, and we hope we did. Thank you.